Prick Radio, where we give you a verbal image of life, and we are everyday people. Like to welcome y'all to the show. Since Harris County, Houston is on a lockdown, we're doing this show outside. So if you hear any dogs barking or any lawnmowers mowing, it's just part of the atmosphere. Today we want to talk about herd immunity. You can picture, let's say, back in the day when you were younger and your parents found out someone in your class had chicken pox, and they'd have the chicken pox sleepover where they bring the children who hasn't had it yet, and they would have these sleepovers where you could catch it, the chicken pox, and once you get it and you put the calamine lotion on you to dry the chicken pox out, after that you would be immune to it, and the chances of you catching it and later on in life would be slim to none. That's similar to the concept of herd immunity. Right? See, herd immunity describes what portion of a population has to be immune to a disease for the population as a whole to be protected from outbreaks. The exact threshold depends on the effectiveness of the disease, represented by the basic reproduction number called R with the little zero at the bottom. Is pronounced R naught. When a new virus emerges, no one is immune. And this is pertaining to the COVID-19, the coronavirus. No one is immune to it at this point. And it says a highly transmissible virus like the coronavirus behind the current pandemic can spread like wildfire, quickly burning through the dry kindling of a total naive population. Notice, why is the population naive? Well, because it's something new. People were still, even some of the city officials were having people still going out in public places and whatnot. But that could be to two theories. Either you isolate the public to prevent the spread of it, or you don't isolate the public and create what is called the herd immunity, and let it just spread throughout the population until once you get it, you can't get it anymore. And then from that point on, the virus will slowly dissipate because it can't justify its existence, because when it tries to enter into that portion of the population that's immune to the virus, then it dies and goes away. Right. So we're going to get into the up to 2/3 of a population would need to be infected to reach that threshold. Current estimates put the coronavirus between two or three, meaning anyone with COVID-19 tends on average to infect 2 or 3 other people. While this number can change based on our behavior, researchers estimate that the herd immunity threshold for COVID-19 is about 1/3 to 2/3 of any given population. Worldwide, that means anywhere from 2.5 billion to 5 billion people. Scientists aren't yet sure how long people infected with COVID-19 remain immune, but so far it seems that they aren't readily reinfected. So that's a good sign. Meaning this coronavirus might be similar to the chicken pox in a sense, to where once you get it, your body builds up an immunity for it, and that would be the end of it. But for that to happen, it would have to spread between 2.5 and 5 billion people. People acquire immunity against a virus in 2 ways. Either they have been infected and recovered, gaining some level of antibody protection, or they get a vaccine against the virus. Since a vaccine is at least 12 to 18 months from being available, The fastest way to herd immunity would be to let the virus burn through the world's population unimpeded, according to a March 16 report released by researchers at Imperial College London in the United States. The pandemic would peak in about 3 months under that scenario. But check this out. The cost of such a strategy would be overwhelming. Upward of 2 million Americans would die from infection alone, according to the same report. Roughly 81% of the U.S. population would get infected, the team estimates. The elderly and those with underlying health conditions would be hardest hit, but younger people too can experience severe illnesses. And the critical care capacity of U.S. hospitals would be exceeded as early as the second week of April. So they're saying by the second week of April, under the herd immunity, the hospitals will be overran and eventually require 30 times as many critical care beds as currently exist. The team estimates while there is much still unknown about the virus, most experts agree with this overall picture. The cost of delaying action any further to slow the virus spread could be catastrophic, the research concludes. That's why countries around the world are trying various strategies to quell the surge in cases, in effect flatten the exponential curve on the pandemic. But the curve is not flattened yet. It's on the rise. And lessening the strain on hospitals. Those measures primarily consist of aggressive social distancing, such as closing schools, canceling large public events, and encouraging people to work from home if possible. Social distancing reduces deaths but delays herd immunity. Now, this is the dilemma right here. The necessary flip side of successful social distancing is that achieving herd immunity gets delayed as cases decrease, says Michael Mina, an epidemiologist at Harvard University, T.H. Chan School of Public Health in Boston. Even if collectively we prevent a surge in the coming weeks, he says, the virus could reemerge as soon as restrictions are lifted. In the absence of robust herd immunity at the population level, we have some risk of a second wave of the pandemic. Social distancing would need to last 1 to 3 months at minimum, potentially longer. Society could keep a lid on such a resurgence by maintaining broad social distancing. The Trump administration on March 16 called for significant social distancing for at least the following 15 days, but most experts expect such measures will need to be in place in the United States for 1 to 3 months at minimum to keep hospitals from being overwhelmed. Wow. We could get a big break if the virus spread slows with warmer weather. That's why they're saying, okay, wait till April 1st when the weather gets a little warmer. They have their fingers crossed, hoping that the warmer weather could slow down the virus. Though so far there's no indication that will happen. That would be a great stroke of luck, says Maciej Boni at Penn State University, and may allow more people to return to work once the number of new cases begin to fall. Keeping schools closed and encouraging people to generally stay home could suppress the pandemic after 5 months, according to the Imperial College London report. But once such restrictions are lifted, the virus would, in all probability, come roaring back until a vaccine becomes available, potentially in 12 to 18 months. The report argues that major society-wide social distancing measures are necessary, but such drastic change to daily life may be difficult to sustain, Boni says. It's like you're holding back a wave of infections with saran wrap. Now, 12 to 18 months, so let's say a year and 4 months to get a vaccine. So a year and 4 months from now, we would actually have to practice social distancing until a vaccine is created, or the herd immunity concept would state that catch the virus, hope you don't die from the virus, and once your immune system defeats the virus, then they're saying you should be okay in the future. So, all we can do is wait and see, right? Whether such strict isolation could be maintained for months on end is unknown. We've never faced anything like this before, says Caitlin Rivers, an epidemiologist at the Johns Hopkins Center for Health Security. The economic cost would be enormous, especially for the most vulnerable members of society. But I'm not ready to give up on the lessons from places like South Korea and Taiwan, Rivers says. They've shown the virus can be locally contained through general social distancing, coupled with extensive testing, case isolation, and contact tracing. South Korea, for instance, reported its highest number of new cases, 909 on February 29th. Since then, the number has steadily decreased. On March 24th, only 76 new cases were reported. But the methods that China and South Korea use to make sure people stayed isolated, I don't think America would get to that extent to use those tactics. But they did announce that law enforcement could use physical force to maintain the social distancing procedure. So you never know. As staying home hopefully dampens the epidemic, Bona, Rivers, and Mina all say it's key to use the coming months to rapidly expand testing infrastructure while also bolstering healthcare systems. Testing allows public health officials to identify new cases and isolate them, while tracing and testing their contacts as quickly as possible. Testing and isolating potential contacts before they develop symptoms is crucial, since the pandemic seems to be driven by people who don't know they're sick. It would be as though we're back at the beginning of the outbreak and taking targeted approaches. With some luck, such an approach could keep outbreaks from spreading until a vaccine creates herd immunity. Now, the unknown at this point, there are still too many unknowns to know how and when we will reach herd immunity. In the coming weeks, epidemiologists will be closely tracking the number of new cases as well as the total number of tests to get a sense of whether social distancing is working in a particular region. It's been amazing to see the swing in society over the past week, Mina says. Nearly everyone has gotten on board, but he worries about the sustainability of such strict measures as the weeks wear on. Social forces may end up overwhelming the science, meaning that people might get weary, and the science that they're trying to tell people, hey, look, just wait. We need to do this social distancing for up to 1 to 3 months. We need you to be patient so the science can figure this thing out. But people might get impatient and, start getting unrest. And that's the whole purpose of this show, is to give you all some information that may help calm your nerves. This was coming from the Science News because I didn't want to speculate and basically those really that's on the front line are the scientists, the biologists, the chemists that's on that front line who is trying to understand the root of the problem so they can defeat it. And that's how you defeat a silent enemy. You understand it. You understand its habits and its movements. Then when you're ready, you go in and you take it out patiently. So we're hoping that as it rises on the incline, that we'll be able to defeat this thing with our immune systems that will be strengthened over time. So let's say 16 months from now, a year and a half from now, if there is a resurgence, it won't hit as hard as it first initially hit the globe. So share this with your friends, a little information dealing with what the science news is saying. But, on this show, VoroPick Radio, we like to give you information and a point of view that's like none other. You're only going to get this here. And like I said, if you're bored, make sure you go to YouTube and watch the Everyday People, the movie episode that's on YouTube. And that's Everyday People, THE, the movie. And while we're currently working on part 2 of Everyday People, the movie, we filmed some of it in Cozumel, Mexico. We filmed some of it aboard the Carnival Dream cruise line. Where we were hitting different locations because I wanted to bring, I want to bring the scenery, something pleasant to look at. And, the corona took us by surprise. But what I did know was by watching what was happening abroad in China and then Italy. And then once I saw it hitting in New York, I knew, okay, well, it's a matter of time before it comes to Houston. But each city, as it works its way to different cities, it has the potential to get even worse and even broader because it's catching us off guard. We didn't have certain things in place, so it has to take its place. It has to take its course, I should say, and we figuring it out as we go. It is what it is. The stimulus package, I think it's necessary. Some is saying it's a handout or whatnot, but when you have so many businesses closing down and so many unemployed, and we all know in the capitalistic system, you got to pay them bills. And so the government is helping. You got to pay that mortgage. You got to pay that car note. Got to pay the electricity, water bill, gas bill. I mean, things that are essential to life. You have to pay those. So things are not going to stop. So the government should send out a stimulus package, especially to the American citizens, because the hardworking American citizen pays taxes. So there you have it. But be safe. We'll bring you, matter of fact, we'll look into coronavirus and 5G. We'll see what that's about. I'm hearing things on that nature to see if it's any facts to what they're saying or not. But, hey, that's what we do here on VoroPick Radio. And we're out.